Say that we're going to talk about
VGC timer stall. Well, it's not really that we're just going to talk exclusively about the timer stalling, but um, just the philosophy of how to use the timer and really, is it right to use the timer to your advantage if the situation calls for it? A lot of people like to complain about it or say that it's not really legitimate, but it is a mechanic in the game. Um, and yeah, by the way, we got Daniel Song here. He's more of a VGC player than I
how's it going,
am.
guys?
Uh, he's more of a VGC player than I am, so I brought him on to discuss like his experiences with the timer, um, whether it's like ethical or not to use the timer to your advantage. Because the main point I want to bring up, just in this video, is that I play a lot of Street Fighter, and in competitive Street Fighter, you always have the timer. Every round is 99 seconds. And so if you're playing a defensive character or a traditionally defensive character like say Guile, Balrog, even like M Bison, and you got 10 seconds left and you have a life lead, you don't just rush in there and try to finish off your opponent. No, you just wait out the timer and you get the win. And in Pokemon, sometimes it's sort of the same way, where there's some situations where you have more Pokemon than your opponent, and it's not in your favor to actually continue battling, and you just run out the timer. I actually saw this happen to, and I don't want to like throw him under a bus or anything, but I did see Aaron Zhang do it at a 2014 Houston regional, and we just wanted to talk about it. Daniel, what are your thoughts on this? Like he had, well, basically, I think I told you before, he had two Pokemon. He had like a Rotom and something else, and his opponent had like a +2 Kangaskhan, and the timer was running really low, and he just decided to stall it out because he would win. And by no means are we like encouraging people to just timer stall from the start. Like this should be like a last resort, situational thing. Uh, just like in Street Fighter, you don't open up the match and just stall out the timer. That's not really how it works.
Yeah.
And in Pokemon, like you definitely will get DQ'd for just being obnoxious like that. That's not really what we're referring to. So, I mean, Dan, you have any like opening thoughts about specifically like the example I use of like a really high level VGC player, Aaron Zhang, that I saw him do it. And it's not specifically to pick on Aaron Zhang. I mean, a lot of people do this,
I know
especially in like, I mean, maybe not so much in the like best of 3 rounds, but mostly in the Swiss rounds. This was a Swiss round. I think it was his very last game,
well,
and that's
I mean,
where people, that's where it tends to show up.
I don't know. I would say it can happen in any game, whether it be the best of 3 sets or Swiss. Like um, what matters is that you're keeping an eye on the timer, and I mean, everyone takes their amount of time with each turn, but as the game is going on, I mean, it's information that is free right on your game, and I'd say that it's your advantage that you keep an eye on it and understand where your team is currently at health-wise, and as it's starting to come down, then well, you have to kind of consider like maybe 2 or 3 turns ahead, and how much time you kind of have, how much interval of time that you have in between. Because, like in the example that Carl you brought up with Aaron facing a +2 Kangaskhan and having 2 mons on his side. I mean,
Yeah, because
you wanna probably, if the timer's almost done. I mean, that's the right call.
well,
And
another thing though is that wasn't really in his opponent's control. Like he was making his moves quickly, but Aaron wasn't. Aaron was just
yeah,
stalling the timer at the
I
end.
know. That's what when you were playing for time, that's what you do. And that's what you're supposed to do. And
Yeah,
I think,
because
I think if it's the situation calls for it, as in if there are it's like 2-3 minutes left.
like see, this is what the reason I'm making this video, because I feel like there's a lot of stigma to just doing anything
There
you
is.
can to
There
win.
is.
Because if somebody saw that, like someone who's more casual, they would probably call them out and say it's not a legitimate win. Because if there was no time limit and that battle had kept going, Aaron would have lost.
Yeah,
For example.
but
And again, I'm just using him as an
it is what
example,
it is.
but
But I think the you you have to understand that like you can't let every battle run forever. The tournaments will not last for days because some people are just taking absolutely forever. Like you
Yeah, the
have to,
Swiss rounds, I don't remember
yeah.
the exact number now, but it's like 20 to 30 minutes. It's severely reduced timer, and it is part of the format. You can't
I'm
just
pretty sure
write
it's
it off
15
and
minutes
say
for
that.
the game now.
Is it 15 now? Yeah, that's
I'm pretty
ridiculous. For
sure it's
Swiss
15.
rounds, for Swiss, that's ridiculously
I think like
short.
each game is gonna be 15 minutes long,
Okay, yeah, like I
which
said, I haven't been to a regional since
yeah,
2014, so I don't know this stuff.
yeah, and like this happened on like national streams. Like
Hmm.
I believe I can't remember which set it was during Nats, but
So it's simply
it was
ignorance.
like one person was had three Pokemon, the other person had two. So like, and timer was down to like 2 minutes already. So like, it was basically at that point, and it's your advantage to take a win that way. Like it's, I mean, I think it's the nature of
Of the format.
competitive is to win within the rules, and
The timer is part
timers
of the
is
rules.
within the rules. like
Yeah, exactly.
like that's within the rules. It's there. Like if you want to take an extra L, that's up to you.
Yeah,
But
and
like the point is to use use what you have at your disposal. Like that's kind of the point of it. Like putting restrictions on yourself that essentially just limit your winning potential is
yeah.
not the most effective way to go about competitive, basically.
Yeah, so the point of the whole video is that it's just ignorant to try and disregard the timer in VGC battles when it is literally part of, when it's one of the most integral parts of the rules. And I feel like too often people who play by the timer are just or the whole practice is stigmatized when it really shouldn't be, because this whole thing with the timer exists in other competitive games. It exists in Street Fighter. That's the main example. All fighters, like, they don't have, because especially because Street Fighter, at least in previous iterations, it's a very defensive kind of game, very footsies oriented. So you can't just have uh, the unlimited timer. They don't really care who could have won if the time was unlimited. That's not really how it works. They don't care that
Yeah.
you have an evil Ryu with full meter and ultra that could have still won. You were at the life deficit and the timer ran out. Sorry, you lose. It's the same thing with Pokemon, especially in BGC as part of the format. So yeah, I mean, that's really the whole point of this video, because I was tired of seeing shit like that from certain people we know, and
Yeah.
calling timer losses not true losses, because that's just complete nonsense.
And also, if you think
And
about it,
I mean,
like,
top level
um,
players use the rule to their advantage, and that's just part of the game. It's part of Nintendo's format, and I mean, Nintendo's always right, right?
no, I mean, I think at the same time, like, I think if you let yourself get to that point, I mean, well,
That's
if
kind of
you,
on you.
yeah, like people complain about, like, we can say people complain about hacks all the time, but I mean, there's some things that you literally can't do anything about it. But
Yeah, it's
oftentimes
measuring
people are way
probability.
too quick to blame the hacks instead of blaming themselves for putting themselves in a situation.
Yeah, it's all about measuring risk and reward. That's why Ray Rizzo is so good at this game. Like, that's his living, is measuring probability.
Yeah,
Roughly something
he
like
actually is
that.
doing actuary science, so that's literally what he's doing for his job too.
Yeah,
Like
that's why he's godly
legit
at the
risk
game.
management. It's a very fitting job for him, I bet.
Yeah. So I don't think we have anything else to say about that.
Yeah, I
And,
mean, I mean, it's nothing new. I would say that like some people, every person is a little bit different when they start doing this. From what Enosh has told me, Wolfie did this on him when they had like 5 minutes left or something like that, which
yeah.
is like a little bit scumbaggy. But that's,
But I mean,
I mean,
even then
Wolfie's the
though,
kind of person who's like more willing to go a little bit farther
to
in
win.
terms of like
Even then though,
what
like,
is
I don't know the context of the battle, but he might have been even that's just foresight, looking ahead to see, okay, if I try and run the timer a little now, maybe I can still win. I can just try to preserve all my mons, even if so basically, I guess his strategy was just to preserve mons rather than like, regardless of health, and then just try and run the timer because he knows that's his only way to win. I mean, that's just foresight and using a mechanic of the format. I
yeah.
don't see, and even that, which might be a little bit of a stretch, like in terms of sportsmanship. I think, I mean, I'll just give him the benefit of the doubt because he is a top level VGC player. He gets there by making predictions and just being a good player. He probably had the foresight to see, all right, at this point, this is probably my only way to win.
Yep.
And that's just all there is
to it. All the good players
are
gonna think about that, and they will do what it takes to get the W's.
It is. I mean, literally the definition of competitive is that you play to win, and when the timer is a part of the format, you use the timer to win. And that doesn't even mean, like, from what I said in the beginning, there's a difference between using the timer strategically and being obnoxious, right? And when you're clearly being obnoxious about it, that's when, I mean, that's why it's judge's discretion, right? Yep. And whatever they say at the end goes. That's why they're the what's the word I'm looking for? The moderators, I suppose.
Yeah, like it's pretty. Yeah, I think if you're taking all the way to the end, and it's pretty clear that it's close, or like it's, I don't know. I would say like every judge that comes over is going to be a little bit different in terms of how they enforce it, but I haven't really heard any cases of it negatively affecting anybody.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm just ignorant, but I've yet to hear of a case where like a relevant VGC player was being obnoxious and had to be like given a loss over the timer. So yeah.
Like it's there to stay, and it's up to you whether or not you use it or not.
Yeah, and so that's gonna be it for this video. I will see you guys next time.